Hey, what's up, guys? So I got a couple of requests to do some Pigments sound design walkthroughs. I've just did a bunch of patches as well for my Patreon page. Asked some of the guys there to vote what instruments they wanted done. Pigments was high up on that list, and one of the things I did was upload a bank of around 64 presets for that, which you can grab at the Patreon page. We're going to dive into Pigments now and actually build something from scratch. These kind of videos, I don't often do them kind of ahead of time. We're going to dive straight in and I'm going to see what I can come up with just on camera, on screen. I want to do an idea in one of the patches that I did for the 64 patch bank. Something similar to that using just the analog oscillators inside of Pigments, and we're going to do sort of an analog pad sound with a few little extra tricks here and there. Let's dive straight in and we'll take a look. I'll put up the patch once we've finished, available on the Patreon as well for anybody to download, free members as well if you want access to the bigger banks. It's a paid subscription, but if you want to grab this one for learning along, you can go and do that. All right, let's dive straight in and take a look. So I'm starting off with a blank canvas here. I was used to think of Pigments. I used to reach for this when I wanted sort of granular samples and sampled stuff and wavetable synths. But I constantly forget that it's actually a really, really good straight up analog synth for sort of more, simple subtractive analog sounds. Essentially, what you got here is two sort of it's almost the architecture of a mini Moog, for example. You've got two of them stacked on top of each other here, obviously running through two filters. So you've got quite a lot of options. And then also want to look at some of these little modulator and unison sections here, because I, for the longest period of time, just ignored them. And there's some little hidden features behind these. For example, when you're in some of the other pages as well, like harmonics, you'll have different modulators from either engine one or back from itself. But you've also got things like different ways that you can modify the sounds for each engine specifically. Like this used to frustrate me as well, because there was never any unison for the samples until I realized that it is actually there. You just got to flick through it to find it. Even this resonator is super interesting as well. So we'll just go back to the analog section here. And I'm going to start working on this first engine. We'll turn that one off for now. I'm going to use one of these different modifiers that you have here, the chord one, to do something interesting with this. So if you turn up the voices, you're adding in additional layers now, part of a chord. This is currently set to octaves, but we can also dial that into fifths, which gives you a really nice effect as well. Obviously, you can go into chords themselves, like a minor. Problem with that is that you're stuck with a minor, so it's not very playable from the perspective of having a pad that you can actually play chords with. We're going to stick to the fifth, and let's start dialing in some of the oscillators here. I'm going to start with a pulse wave, and I'm going to grab a LFO. We'll assign the LFO to the width for the pulse. We can adjust this slightly. We'll bring in a saw 2. And this one we're going to modulate the... Use LFO 2 for this. I want to modulate a bit of the pitch here. So just go dial in a suitable envelope. Seeing as we're making a pad. And we might as well bring in a filter along too. Let's use the... I've got the Matrix 12 24 dB. We can assign, you can have the keyboard control on this one. You could also assign that yourself. I'm going to actually just change this to envelope 2 instead, I think. Just... a little bit more release on that, and let's make sure that this one doesn't cut us off as well with a short release. Okay, so we got the beginnings of something there. Now I want to do something a little bit more interesting using this voices section here. We're going to use envelope 3 to modulate the amount of voices that we have. So over time, you're going to actually add in more voices on that chord. That's pretty interesting now already. Now, we'll leave that like it is, except I want this to have more of a focus on the bass notes being themselves. There's sort of quite a lot of focus on the higher notes now. Two ways I'm going to do that. I'm going to bring in a secondary, either a utility, a sub, or we'll bring in the second engine. But we're also going to sidechain the modulation that we have coming from envelope 3 onto this voices control. We're going to sidechain that to the keyboard. So lower notes. So the lower notes are only going to fade in 1/5 like that. The higher ones will run the full gamut like that, adding all the extra content on top. Cool. Now, I still want to focus more on the fundamental note that we have there, so let's bring this in. We'll run a secondary engine, I think. Want this one to be slightly louder than this one, so we'll bring the volume of this one down. Bring it a little bit more. And I think let's go quite stereo with this one, so we'll bring up the unison on this. Right, so we're going to let this one play as it is, and we're going to run this through a different filter, I think, as well, because I want to be able to maintain the panning of this one down the center. So let's change the filter mix, and we'll run this through maybe something like the mini. Make sure that these are parallel. Also run this from envelope 2. I might actually change this one to a low pass 12. And I'm actually not going to sum these together. I'm going to split them. So we're going to have two separate effects buses for each engine in the synth. Getting insanely big wide sounds here now though as well. So let's have these ones just slightly randomly per note. It's kind of like an alternating modulator. You can do... Actually, you know what? We'll use one of the new ones here. I was going to use the sample and hold so you could have it from a poly trigger. The poly KB trigger would give you a random value each time. Then you're going to assign to something like the panning. But to do that sort of more like an alternating kind of control, we could use the voice modulator instead and have that kind of step through different values. So if you wanted alternation, you could actually just bring these down if you wanted to. each one will give you a different value. So this could then be assigned random 2 to the panning control, for example, on this. I don't know if I want to be that extreme with it, so let's maybe just kind of add some slightly more random values, but kind of have it ping-ponging between 2, and maybe we'll just back down slightly on that. So we've got a little bit of spread happening on that first engine. And let's play around with the effects now, because we do have the flexibility of having 2 separate effects chains here. We could decide maybe we want to filter the initial one slightly. Let's run a multi-filter on that, and we can put in a high pass here. Let's just double check that this is doing what we want it to do. Let's go with something like a shimmer delay, reverb on this. It's quite nice because you're keeping the reverb quite clean now. It's just the high stuff going in there. And let's go in and bring back our lower sound. And just play around with this a little bit. Maybe we can do EQing on this one. We can just keep it out of the way of the other layer, and perhaps play around with some sort of distortion on this too. Maybe even adjust this slightly by using one of the random generators here. We'll possibly not the touring. Let's go with a random. And we'll adjust the smoothing so we get kind of a smooth random on this, and let's bring the rate down a little bit too. I kind of want longer sections where it's not distorting. That's why I'm leaving this in the polarity as bipolar, so that when it modulates down from 0, it's not really doing anything, but you're going to get kind of quicker little spikes of distortion as it goes up. Yeah, I like the little bit of grunginess that comes through. It's subtle, but it works. I quite like the contrast now between the reverb on the top one, and then we've got this dry underneath. Maybe just add in a little bit of delays, I guess, as a send, perhaps. And I'm not going to go into macros. Let's just check out what this sounds like just as it is. I think that works pretty well. Perhaps use the mod wheel to add some control into this. Maybe we'll back that down slightly. Assign a mod wheel to that as well. And the last thing I want to just check is that distortion. It should be a little bit more extreme if we're filtering post like that. Okay, let's play around with this now. Bring up our mod wheel. Cool. And there you have it. Some pretty interesting textures and stuff going on there. And just using the analog oscillators inside of Pigments. We'll come back and do some more of these down the line. I want to look at some of the other engines as well. And we'll cover some stuff that I don't use all that much, like the harmonics engine, which is super powerful when you get into that. Stay tuned and we'll do some more down the line. If you guys want specific sound design stuff, leave a comment in the comments down below, or better yet, jump on Patreon and leave us a message there. Let me know what you want to see in terms of what synths you like, and we'll see what we can do. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys again soon. Till then, take care. Cheers.